Hi there. Welcome on All in All TV. Let move and enjoy love story. Today's story is the first touch of midnight. The village slept in silence. Roofs covered in silver moonlight, cattle rustling softly in the sheds, and only the sound of a distant owl reminded the night it was alive. But not everyone slept. Arav stood by the edge of the old banyan tree, heart beating faster than time, eyes fixed on the dusty path that led past the well. The same path she would take, the same path she always did. And there she came, Zoya, wrapped in her light blue dupatta like a dream walking through darkness. Her anklets didn't make a sound anymore. She had learned how to walk without waking the wind, but her presence stirred every breath of Arav's chest. Zoya, he whispered when she reached him. She didn't speak at first, only smiled. The kind of smile that could melt every rule written by the elders. The kind that could turn silence into poetry. You waited again, she said, eyes shining even under the moon. Like every night, I'll wait every night, until this village grows tired of the moon, Arav said, holding her hand, gently pulling her toward the shadows of the abandoned school building where no one came anymore. They sat on the old stone steps, wrapped in the darkness, hidden from every eye but watched by the stars. Zoya leaned her head on his shoulder. It's dangerous, Arav. What if someone sees us? I don't care, he replied, placing his palm over hers. Every moment with you is worth the risk of the world. Her breath slowed, and for a while, they sat in that sacred silence. Then slowly, she looked up. Do you ever imagine us, she whispered, living together in our own home? Arav closed his eyes. Every single day, a house with tall white walls. In the village, surrounded by trees. And another in the city, with windows that opened to the sunrise. She smiled. That same dangerous, beautiful smile. And who will cook you? If I'm lucky, he teased. No. She laughed softly. We'll cook together at every meal. Every festival, every stormy night. He turned to her, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear. Zoya, I want that life more than anything. A life where we don't have to hide. Where I can wake up and see your face. Not just in dreams. The night deepened and the stars blinked brighter. Zoya's fingers slid into his. Sometimes I fear we're just a dream. That we'll be forced apart. That these nights will end. Arav turned to her fully now, eyes intense. Look at me, he said. We're not a dream. We're more real than this whole village. Our love is the truth. The rest, just noise. Then he leaned in and kissed her forehead, holding her close, as if by doing so he could protect their love from the world. I want to travel with you, Zoe murmured. Not just escape, but explore. See mountains, oceans, walk in cities we don't even know the names of. We will, Arav promised. But first, we'll build our home. One here, and one there. Then we'll take on the world together. The clock in the temple rang 3 times, a soft, distant chime. It was time to go back. Time to return to separate homes, separate worlds, until nightfall came again. As they stood, Arav cupped her face. You're the air I breathe, Zoya. I'll build every dream around you. She kissed his palm. And I'll never stop waiting for the day I can fall asleep next to you. Not like a secret, but like a wife. They walked away into the opposite shadows, to hearts in love, pulled apart by the rules of their world, but stitched together by a promise that night had heard and the stars had blessed. The next night arrived like a lover in disguise, slow, quiet, and full of hidden promises. The stars sprinkled themselves across the sky again, and the moon hung low, heavy with secrets. Arav had been restless all day. Every heartbeat had echoed with Zoya's name, every oar dragged by the memory of her voice, her scent, the soft warmth of her hand in his. When night fell, he was already waiting, this time by the old mango orchard at the edge of the village. It was darker here, more hidden, a place only they knew, a place that had learned the shape of their silence. And then she came. She wore a simple black shawl, her hair unbraided, lips glowing like rose petals under the moon. Her eyes found him in an instant, and in that gaze, the world collapsed. There was no night, no village, No fear, only them. You look like a dream tonight, Arav said, pulling her gently into his arms. I was your dream long before tonight, she whispered, smiling. They didn't speak much at first. Their bodies did. His fingers traced the line of her wrist. Her thumb brushed the back of his neck. Every breath between them was an unspoken poem, filled with meaning, filled with desire. Tell me, she said after a while, resting her head on his chest, what would our mornings be like when we lived together? Arav closed his eyes and let his heart speak. You'd wake up first, he said, and watch me sleeping like you do now. Then you'd go to the kitchen, barefoot, wearing my shirt. Zoya laughed softly, cheeks warming. And I'd come behind you, wrap my arms around you, and never let go. Zoya pulled back to look at him. And if we had a house in the village, we'd have a small farm, a swing in the courtyard, mango trees. You'd hang garlands in the doorway. And in the evenings, we'd drink tea as the sun sets, just you and me. She nodded. And in the city, a house with glass windows and warm lights, a rooftop where we dance at night. I'd write poetry for you. You'd paint. And we'd explore every cafe and street until the city knew us by name. Zoya's eyes welled up, not with sadness, but with how much she wanted it all. How do you carry so many dreams in one heart, Arav? He looked at her and replied simply, because you're in all of them. She kissed his cheek, a kiss so soft and slow it felt like the night itself paused to watch. Then she whispered, Arav, I want to tell you something, but I don't have words. He held her face gently. Then don't use words. Let your eyes speak. And they did. Her eyes, deep, dark, filled with a quiet fire, said everything. That she loved him more than life. That she longed for the day they wouldn't have to meet in hiding. That every second away from him burned like the sun in her chest. Arav leaned in. Their foreheads touched. Their breaths merged. And then their lips met. It was not the first kiss, but it felt like the first that truly belonged to them. No hesitation, no fear, only surrender. His hand held the back of her neck, her fingers curled into his shirt. The kiss deepened, slow and full, like they were pouring their souls into one another. When they finally pulled away, gasping softly, she whispered against his lips, I don't want to go back tonight. Arav held her tightly. Then don't stay until the stars fall. They lay down in the tall grass, her head on his chest, the cool night air brushing over them like a blessing. They spoke of everything, the clothes they'd wear at their wedding, the names of their future children, the color of their living room walls. Their hands never let go. That night, their love wasn't just felt. It was spoken, touched, and lived. The orchard became a temple of their desire, and the darkness their sanctuary. Their love breathed through the night like a fire that never wanted to go out. As dawn whispered on the horizon, Zoe rose slowly, tears in her eyes. Will you be mine in this life and every life after? She asked. Arav looked at her like a man seeing a miracle. You are already mine, Zoe, in this life and in every heartbeat that comes after it. They parted just before the world awoke. But something had changed. Their love had grown deeper, more fearless. They had touched not just skin, but soul, and no force in the world could pull that apart.
Chapter 3. The village doesn't know the village was waking up, roosters crowing, smoke rising from kitchen fires. Women gathered at the well with their brass pots and their gossip. But the village didn't know. It didn't know what had bloomed under the shadow of its own silence. The village didn't know about the way Arav and Zoya looked at each other when others weren't watching. It didn't know about his stolen glances during festivals, the brush of fingers during prayers, or the way their hearts raced in opposite directions yet met every single night. But the walls were growing thinner. People had begun to notice. Zoya's aunt had warned her you'd disappear after dinner too often. You think people are blind? Her father had grown suspicious. Where were you last night? I didn't hear the door once. And Arev's older brother had stared at him longer than usual when he came home with mud on his feet at midnight, yet none of it mattered, because that night, like all the others, they met again, this time near the abandoned mill, where dust and rust had silenced every echo. It was darker than usual, and yet they found each other like the moon finds the tide. She came running, breathless, and fell into his arms as if the world had chased her there. I couldn't take it anymore, she said. The questions, the stares, I just wanted you. He kissed her forehead, then her cheek, then the side of her lips. You'll always have me, Zoya, even if the world burns. She looked up, fierce and fragile at once. Will you run away with me? If it ever gets too much, I'll carry you if I have to, he said, but I won't let them win. And then, in the shadows of the mill, among broken bricks and whispers of danger, they kissed again. Longer, slower, like this was the only kiss that had ever mattered. Her hand slid into his hair. His arms pulled her tighter than the world allowed. Clothes rustled. Breaths deepened. Hearts thundered. They lay together on a sheet Arov had brought, tucked behind a fallen pillar, the night wrapping them in safety. The heat of their closeness turned gentle touches into wildfire. Fingers wandered with reverence, not haste, tracing the outline of love carved into their very skin. I dream of this, Zoya whispered, her lips against his collarbone. Of nights without fear, of loving you without hiding. You already do, he said, holding her bare shoulder under the shawl. You love me like the moon loves the ocean, from a distance, but deep, wild. Her tears came then, soft and warm. Sometimes I'm scared, she admitted, that they'll marry me off before I can fight. Arav's grip tightened. Then we won't wait anymore, we'll plan. We'll leave, we'll make our own world. She smiled, cheeks wet, eyes glowing. Will our house have a blue door? Yes, he said, and yellow curtains, and a kitchen that smells of cardamom and rain, and a bedroom with no walls between us, she added playfully, tracing a finger down his chest. He caught her hand, kissed it, and placed it on his heart. This is your home, too. You already live here. The hours melted away. They lay there, whispering nothings, making lists of all the places they'd go. Jaipur, Kashmir, Goa. They spoke of building a school, starting a business, growing a garden with hibiscus and jasmine. They talked of babies with her smile in his eyes, of raising them without fear or rules that punished love. As the first call to prayer echoed in the distance, Zoya sat up. I don't want to leave, she said, holding his shirt like it was air. He kissed her once more, slowly, deeply. Then don't leave me, ever. They dressed, brushing leaves off each other's clothes, fixing their hair, returning to the real world, where doors creaked, and people watched, and love had to hide, but the village still didn't know. It didn't know that 2 of its children had already chosen a future far from its boundaries. It didn't know that beneath the still skies, love had taken root, strong, passionate, and ready to defy anything. Chapter 4. A house of dreams. It was a moonless night, but for Arav and Zoya, their love lit up the world more than any stars ever could. They met by the riverside this time, a quieter place, surrounded by tall reeds, where the only sound was the gentle flow of water and the symphony of crickets. Arav had laid out a small blanket over the damp earth, and Zoya came barefoot, shawl wrapped tightly around her, carrying something wrapped in cloth. She sat beside him and unwrapped it. Your favorite, she said with a smile. From scratch. Arav laughed, truly laughed, his heart full. You made this for me, at midnight. I snuck into the kitchen after everyone went to sleep, she whispered. I couldn't stop thinking about you, about us, about our life. They ate quietly, their hands brushing with every bite, their eyes lingering longer than necessary. When they were done, Zoya leaned back, resting her head on Arav's shoulder. Describe it again, she murmured. Our house, every detail. He smiled and closed his eyes. Okay. It's just past the trees in our village, at the top of a small hill. White walls, a big wooden door that creaks a little when you push it, red tiles on the roof, 2 windows with yellow curtains that flutter with the wind. She sighed, imagining it. What about the inside? There's a courtyard in the middle. You keep Tulsi in one corner. A swing hangs from the neem tree just outside the kitchen. The kitchen itself is full of jars, masalas, pickles, flour, and you make chai while the sun rises. Zoya smiled, eyes moist. And you, I sit on the floor with my notebook, writing. Sometimes poetry, sometimes letters you'll read when you're angry with me. She laughed and turned to him. I'll never be angry. I'll be too in love. They were silent for a while, lost in that imagined home. But then Zoya spoke, voice softer than ever. Arav, I don't want to just dream about it anymore. I want to start building it, even if it's only in our minds for now. I want to name the rooms. I want to plan the tiles. I want to know what kind of bed we'll sleep in, what kind of lamp we'll leave on at night. He turned to her, heartful, and kissed her. Slow, reverent, full of the kind of love that didn't burn fast, but burned forever. Then let's do it, he said. Let's build it here tonight. And so they did. With bare fingers and quiet words, they built their house on the blanket under the stars. This is the front door, Zoya said, placing a pebble. And this is where you'll greet me every evening, Arav added. This is the kitchen, she smiled, drawing a square in the dirt. And this is our bedroom, he whispered, wrapping his arm around her waist. The place where you fall asleep in my arms every night. Zoya leaned her forehead against his. Can we have a room just for books? Yes, he said. And another one for music, and another for silence. Their lips met again, mouths moving slowly, breathlessly. not in hunger, but in devotion. Their fingers intertwined, her body curled into his like it had always belonged there. That night, they lay side by side, imagining each corner of their home. They gave it colors, scents, windows that opened to the wind, and walls that never echoed judgment. "I want to grow old with you in that house," she whispered, tracing circles on his palm. "I want to see your hair turn gray. I want to hold your hand when we're wrinkled and slow. I want to carry you over its threshold," he replied, "and never let you walk out alone." They made promises about rooms they hadn't built yet, arguments they hadn't had yet, children they hadn't met yet, and then they lay in silence again, their bodies touching, hearts steady. Sleep didn't come, not because they were restless, but because reality was finally beautiful enough to stay awake for it. The skies were heavy that night. Clouds had swallowed the stars whole, and a storm brewed quietly over the hills. The villagers closed their windows early, latching wooden doors and whispering about the coming rain. But love doesn't wait for clear skies. Zoya slipped out of her home in silence, her shawl clutched tight around her shoulders, droplets already starting to fall from the dark above. Her feet were bare, she didn't care. Each step forward, she could feel her heart pounding louder, faster. The wind whispered his name between the trees. Arav was already there, standing beneath the neem tree near the edge of the fields where they had once carved their initials into bark. His shirt clung to him, water dripping from his hair, but when he saw her, everything else vanished. He ran to her and held her face between his wet palm. "You came," he whispered, voice rough with longing. "I would walk through fire if it led to you," she replied. And in that moment, with the wind howling, thunder rumbling, and the first crack of lightning tearing the sky, their lips found each other, again and again, until the rain was no longer water, but music between them. They ran, laughing, to the shelter of the old shepherd's hut, half ruined, but dry. Inside, the scent of wet earth and damp wood surrounded them. But even stronger was the scent of longing, the kind that had waited too long, held back too much, and now couldn't anymore. Zoya stood in the soft flicker of Arav's flashlight. Her hair clung to her skin. Her chest rose and fell with every breath she didn't know how to control. Arav stepped closer, slowly, as if she were a flame and he was the wind ready to be consumed. "Zoya," he whispered, but she didn't let him finish. She took his hand and placed it on her heart. "I'm yours," she said, in body and everything. He leaned in, kissing her rain-warmed skin, her shoulder, her neck, every part of her that had waited for him for so long. His hands were gentle, worshipful, learning every inch like it was sacred. She let herself fall into his arms completely, letting go of the world outside the rules, the fear, the years of hiding. What they shared now wasn't just love, it was freedom. Their breaths grew heavier, fingers trembled, skin touched skin, and in that storm-filled night, they created a world where only they existed, wrapped in each other, hearts loud in the quiet. No vows were needed, no ceremony. The way they held each other, bare, close, unafraid, said everything. Zoya looked up at him, eyes filled with tears and joy. "This night, this fire in my chest, I want it forever." Arav kissed her slowly. "Then we'll make every night like this. In our home, in our bed, in the life we promised." Outside, the rain fell harder, but inside, it was warm. Not from the air, but from the fire of two hearts who had found shelter in each other. They didn't sleep much that night. They lay close, whispering dreams between kisses. She traced his scars. He kissed the curve of her spine, and somewhere in the quiet after the storm they made love again. Slower this time, with the kind of passion that speaks in silences. By dawn, the sky had cleared. The first light touched the wet grass, and the world looked washed anew. Wrapped in his arms, Zoya smiled. "We're not just in love, Arav. We are love." And he knew then, more than ever, that no storm, not from nature, not from people, could ever take her away from him again.
Chapter 7. Future Roads. It was one of those golden evenings that arrives too slowly and disappears too fast. A sky the color of ripe mango, its air thick with heat and silence. The village, tired from the day's work, drifted toward dusk in its usual rhythm. But Zoya and Arav were not in rhythm with the world anymore. They had outgrown it. That evening, they didn't meet in the shadows. They met in the open, just before dark, near the old railway track, where grass grew wild and trains rarely passed. It was risky, dangerously bold, but that made it more real. Arav had brought a notebook this time, pages curled and a pen tucked into the spine. He sat cross-legged on the soft earth, and Zoya sat beside him, shoulder against his. He opened the book. At the top of the first page was written in his neat hand, "Our life plan." Zoya smiled instantly. "You've made it look like a business proposal." "It is," he said, pretending to be serious. A startup called Forever with you. She laughed and leaned her head against his arm. Okay, Mr. CEO, tell me our strategy. He flipped to the next page. 1. Escape plan. Leave the village in 2 months, for they pressure her into marriage. Tell no one, not even closest friends. To Jaipur first, affordable, vibrant, and anonymous. Zoya read it carefully, her eyes sharp. We'll need to save money. How much do we need? About 15,000 rupees, Arav said. Enough for travel, a small rented room, and food for the first few weeks. She nodded. I can start hiding money from household expenses, little by little. I've been saving from my part-time welding jobs, he added. Also planning to pick up delivery work for extra incomes. Zoya looked at him with admiration. You've thought of everything. No, he said, looking at her. We did. This isn't my escape. It's our beginning. He turned to the next page. 2. Work plan. Arav. Apply to welding workshops. Look for construction work in the city. Zoya. Tailoring. Mehndi design. Small-scale embroidery to sell online. I can work from home, she said, already thinking aloud. I'll learn digital payments. Use Instagram for orders. There are women doing it, okay? And I'll find a job within a week, RF said, confidently, even if I have to sweep floors at first. Zoya reached over and took his hand. We won't need much, right? Just a small room, a fan, a gas stove, and each other. He nodded. The world can be outside the window. Inside, it will just be us. They smiled, but behind their smiles, the weight of reality settled quietly. This wasn't just a love story anymore. It was a rebellion, a blueprint, a new life being born under their fingertips. As the sun dipped lower, Zoya turned the page herself. 3. Dream expansion. In 2 years, buy a motorbike. In 3 years, rent a small apartment with 2 rooms. In 5 years, visit the sea. In 7 years, build our village house with our own money. She traced the words slowly, as if memorizing the future. You think we'll make it? She asked softly. Arav turned to her, cupped her chin, and replied with unwavering truth. We already have, 'cause we've chosen this life. Not the easy one, but the real one. Then he took a thin silver chain from his pocket, the one he had worn as a child. This is all I have of value, he said, placing it in her palm. Keep it. If things go wrong, sell it. Feed yourself. Her eyes filled with tears. Don't say that. Not planning to leave, he whispered. But if I ever can't protect you, this will. Just a little. She leaned in and kissed him deeply. Not for passion, but for promise. A kiss that said, we will survive anything, even fear. And then, lying beside each other in the fading light, they dreamed out loud again. Not vague dreams, but solid ones. A blue scooter with flower stickers. Zoya, teaching girls in a small village classroom. Arv, opening a welding shop with his name and hers carved on the signboard. Weekend trips to cities where they'd sit in parks with cups of chai. Hey baby, one day, maybe a girl with eyes like hers and a stubborn heart like his. The notebook lay between them, half full, pages fluttering in the evening breeze. But the most important part wasn't written. It lived in their eyes. In the way they looked at each other like there was nothing more sacred than believing in love and building it with bare hands.
Chapter 8. The endless wait. The night had come like all the others. Quietly, slowly, almost gently. But she didn't. Zoya didn't come. Arav waited beneath the neem tree, the one that had watched them laugh, kiss, and plan their whole lives. The wind brushed past him, and the air smelled of drying grass and jasmine. But her scent, her presence, it never came. He looked at his watch. 10:15 p.m.? She was never late. He walked a few paces, looked toward the dark path she always used, heart thudding harder with every second of silence. He listened for footsteps, for a whispered Arav, for the rustle of her dupatta through the trees. But the night stayed still. Panic crept up slowly, not loud, but tight in the chest, like a thread pulling harder around the heart. He waited until 11, then 11:30, still nothing. He stood up, paced, sat again, tried to reason. Maybe her father didn't sleep early tonight. Maybe her younger cousin stayed in her room. Maybe she just couldn't find a way out, but something didn't feel right, because Zoya always found a way. At midnight, Arav left. He didn't walk home. He ran through back lanes, past closed shops, through the cracks of the sleeping village. He circled a house once, silently. All windows were dark. The door was shut. Nothing moved. But he saw something strange. An extra pair of shoes at the threshold. Men's shoes. Visitors. Police. Or something worse. He didn't dare knock. He couldn't. So he turned back and returned to his home, heart twisting in his chest like barbed wire. He didn't sleep that night, and the next day, she was still gone. No message. No note. Nothing. I'd felt a weight of helplessness like never before. Was she hurt? Had someone discovered their secret? Had she been locked inside? Or worse, taken away, married off in silence? He sat with her notebook in his hands, the one they'd written their dreams in. He ran his thumb over her handwriting, now suddenly distant. Every curve of ink was a ghost. On the third day, he went to the tailor's market where she sometimes helped part-time. No one had seen her. He went to the water well, pretended to pass by her aunt, but even she was unusually quiet. Avoiding his gaze, it hit him like ice in his veins. They knew someone had found out, and now she was gone. Arav became a ghost in his own village. He didn't speak much. He didn't eat much. Every night he went to the name tree and waited, just in case. Even when it rained, even when the dogs howled and the cold wind burned his skin. And still, she didn't come. But he never gave up. He left notes, hidden under a brick near the temple, the same place she once left him a rose. Simple lines: I'm still here. Tell me you're okay. I'll wait no matter how long it takes. A week passed. Then, too, his friends stopped asking where he disappeared every night. His mother grew worried. His brother offered him a cigarette one evening and asked, "Is it about a—" Arav didn't reply, but his silence screamed yes. Then, one night, the 21st night since she vanished, he found a small piece of cloth tied around the lowest branch of the name tree, black, with little white dots. His hands trembled as he reached for it. There was a piece of paper tied inside. 2 words written in her handwriting. Wait, promise. He sank to the ground, clutching the cloth, tears falling, not just from relief, but from pain, longing, and that strange kind of joy that only hope can bring after suffering. She was alive. She was still his. She hadn't let go. He kissed the paper and held it to his chest. And that night, for the first time in 3 weeks, he slept, not peacefully, but with his arms wrapped around a scarf and a voice echoing in his dreams like a prayer. Wait, promise. And he would forever, if he had to.
Chapter 9. A letter from the locked room. The letter arrived like a whisper in the wind. Unexpected. Unreal, yet heavy with truth. Ara found it tied to the same name tree branch where Zoya had left her dupatta. This time the thread was thinner, the paper smaller, folded tightly and bound with a red ribbon, the kind used on wedding invitations. His hands trembled as he untied it. The handwriting was hers. Still, the same elegant curves and sharp strokes that once wrote their future in a notebook now carried the weight of her captivity and her hope. My Arav, my sun, my storm, my forever. I don't know how to start. I don't know how many nights you've waited. I just know you did, because you are you. Because your love isn't made of sugar or poems. It's made of patience. Fire, steel, they found out. The night before I was supposed to meet you, my uncle followed me. I never saw him behind me. I was smiling too much, probably thinking of you, of our dreams, of everything we'd whispered into the night. He didn't speak, didn't scream. He just told my father. The next morning, my room was locked from the outside. No phone, no window, just silence. That first day, I cried so much I couldn't breathe. Not because I was scared, but because I didn't know if you were okay, if you thought I had betrayed you, if you felt abandoned. But I didn't leave you, Arav. I never will. I write this from the corner of that same room, where the light barely touches and where your name lives on my lips in silence. Every breath I take is a prayer back to you. They plan to marry me off in 2 months, to someone I don't know, someone from a town I've never seen. They think locking me in here will make me forget you. But don't they know? You're not outside these walls. You're inside me. Your hands, your eyes, your voice. They live in my bones now. I feel you, even in this emptiness. But here's the truth. I haven't given up. I have one cousin. She's the one who slipped this note out and tied it to the neem tree. It's risky, dangerous, but she believes in us. I told her what we are, Arv. Not just lovers, soul makers, dream builders, fighters. And now I need you to do something harder than anything we've done before. Wait, just a little more. I'm working on a way out. I have the second key. I've been watching the guard, my uncle, and how he drinks himself to sleep. I have a plan, but I need you to trust that it will take a few days more, maybe weeks, but not longer. I'm not giving myself to anyone else. They can dress me, they can feed me lies, but they can't change my heart, or my body, or my promise to you. And when I come back to you, not if, but when, I will never leave again. We'll run. We'll vanish if we have to. We'll make love in every corner of the world that once told us no. Remember our house? It's the one you drew for me. Still dream of the yellow curtains. Wait for me, Arav. Not just with hope, but with your fire. I will come back to it. To you, yours. Only ever yours. Zoya Arav sat under the tree, the letter pressed to his chest. He didn't cry this time. He didn't panic, just closed his eyes and believed. He remembered her voice, soft and defiant. The way she looked at him like he was the world. The way her hand felt in his. And now, the way her words felt. Raw, powerful, unshakable. He folded the letter gently, tucked it into the back of their dream notebook, and kissed the place her name was written. He stood and looked at the road ahead. Zoya was coming back, not just to run, but to begin. Love's last promise the night was thick with anticipation, the kind that made every breath sharp, every sound louder, every heartbeat a drum of courage. Zoya moved silently through the shadows of her locked room, clutching the second key she had hidden beneath the floorboard for weeks. Tonight was the night she would reclaim her life, her love, her freedom. She thought of Arav, his steady eyes, his quiet strength, the way his fingers held hers like an unbreakable chain. She thought of their dreams, the city apartments, the village house, the road trips, the baby laughter, the mornings waking with his breath on her neck. They'd promised each other a world where love was no longer whispered in the dark, but lived in the light. And now, nothing could stop them. Arav waited under the neem tree, eyes scanning every movement, every shadow. When he saw her silhouette slip from the village path, thin, determined, glowing with hope, his heart surged. No words were spoken. He took her hand and they ran, past sleepy homes, past barking dogs, past the weight of 1,000 eyes that didn't understand. They didn't look back. As they reached the train station, Zoya turned to Arav, tears shining in her eyes. "Do you remember what we promised?" she whispered. He smiled, brushing a stray hair from her face. "I promised to protect your dreams like my own." She nodded, voice steady. "And I promised to never leave your side, no matter what." They clasped hands tighter. In that moment, under the open sky, surrounded by distant stars and the promise of a new dawn, their love was no longer a secret. It was a rebellion, a revolution, a home. Their love was a fierce fire that refused to burn out, even when the night was darkest. The quiet strength that held them when the world tried to tear them apart. The whispered dreams shared under a blanket of stars, where futures were painted in colors only their hearts could see. The trust that built bridges over silence, absence, and fear. The courage to fight for each other when everything told them to give up. The promise to grow together, to build, to laugh, to stumble, to love without limits. The belief that love is not just feeling, but doing. Every day, every moment. They boarded the train, hearts beating in sync with the rhythm of the rails. Hand in hand, eyes shining with a million unspoken words, they stepped into the unknown. Not afraid, because they carried each other. No more shadows, no more walls, only the endless road, and the freedom to love fiercely and forever.